With Super Steeler Mike Logan, I'm Ken Laird. Steelers365 at triblive.com. All brought to you by Eastern H2O in the Fox Chapel Plaza, a performance sports store. They've still got the beautiful Reactor watches. Never Dark technology. Check them out for your holiday gifts. And also, you get your skis and snowboards waxed up, Mike. The mountains are about to open. They'll take care of you over there. Well, it's all about performance. Entertaining game in Dallas yesterday. Performance in a consistently good fashion, not quite for the Steelers. And now, absolutely a must-win, no doubt about it, coming up for Cincinnati this week, Mike. What do you feel is the state of the franchise coming home after losing their fourth in 5 games?
Well, I think they're down a little bit, but to me yesterday it just seemed like the Pittsburgh Steelers said, we're going into this game. If we win, we win. If we don't, it really doesn't matter when it comes to, the playoff picture, because they know that they have the Cincinnati Bengals coming in next week. But it's the Dallas Cowboys. You would think the enthusiasm would be out of the roof. You had the little preliminary battle between America's team and the world's team, and
right.
Who has more fans and whose fans are more enthusiastic or excited about their football team. So you thought the level of play was going to be high. Now, I would admit the game was physical. There was some hard-hitting action going on in the first half of that game. But towards the end of the game, the second half, it seems to kind of be a little lax attitude on the Pittsburgh Steelers side.
Well, take me to the defensive side, Mike. Your specialty back in the secondary. They had a lot of young DBs forced into action. It looked like Dick LeBeau was trying to mix it up. I mean, Robert Golden, an extra safety, was coming in. At one point, Keenan Lewis is injured. They've got to put Curtis Brown, a second-year man, back in, and Josh Victorian gets the start, and Romo was coming his way early. They actually played fairly well toward the end of the game, maybe thanks to Dallas play calling too, but overall, how do you grade the secondary, and how bad is the situation?
It really makes you miss our fellow buddy, Triple analyst Ike Taylor when he comes in here. It shows you how significant of a role he has in that secondary. I still think Troy Polamalu is bothered by his calf injury. Those guys really don't have an opportunity this year to get that continuity going. And it's really, that's a prime factor in a Dick LeBeau defense, is having continuity with your safeties and your corners. Those guys have been mixing it up. And the Dallas Cowboys did a great job yesterday in game planning. We're going to attack Josh Victorian. Yeah. We're going to come out there and just come at him until he stops us. And Tony Romo had it going early. And I think that kind of plays with your psyche a little bit as a defensive back. They were able to gather themselves towards the end of the game and get it together, but by that time the damage had been done.
Yeah, had to climb out of the hole and expend a lot of energy to do so. And the offensive side, some success. They hit Wallace on the deep ball. They did have one nice drive, one improv TD with Ben and Heath Miller, but after the game, everybody talking about Roethlisberger and Haley. Some of the post-game comments of Ben mentioning play calling. Is there a rift here between these two?
Well, we knew at some point that this was going to be a storyline of the season for the Pittsburgh Steelers offensively, just because of Ben Roethlisberger and how his personality is. This was talked about in training camp when they hired Todd Haley. Before training camp when they hired Todd Haley, and what they would do as far as Ben Roethlisberger taking control of the offense and how much, input would he have. And it seemed that they would have, the engagement process went pretty well. When the season started and the marriage started, then the problems come in, as we all know too well as men.
They're running out of money, no money in the bank.
That's it.
Now they're fighting.
I still would like to see the Pittsburgh Steelers try to establish, a better running game. Really let those guys grind it out. Redman had a nice run in there. He came up limping a little bit, so maybe he was injured a little bit. But if you see the time of possession, the Dallas Cowboys had the ball for 34 minutes and 24 seconds. The Pittsburgh Steelers had it for 27 minutes. I think they really need to control the line of scrimmage and really try to grind the ball out a little bit more.
Yeah, that's a big concern. No run game at all. Dwyer, very much a disappointment. Mendenhall doesn't show up for half the games. He's suspended. They got rookies on the right side. Maybe they're just, they're not confident that DeCastro and Beecham were ready to pound it out in the run game, but you're left with all this run game alternative, and it's been a little spotty.
I was excited to see David DeCastro come into the lineup yesterday. Really didn't get to see how well he played from the TV copy and watching it, but I think that's encouraging, and I think once they get that offensive line together, they can try to dedicate some time to running the football. But then again, that comes into play about Ben Roethlisberger and wanting to control the football and maybe depend on his arm. Let's get it clear. Ben makes some great plays when he's controlling the ball. He's one of the best improv quarterbacks in the National Football League. But I just don't understand. If I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers and I see the success that we have in throwing number 83, Heath Miller, the football, I'm going to continue to feed that young man as much as I can. He's a mismatch for basically every linebacker in the National Football League and half the safeties in the National Football League. They had one time where they were covering him over the top with a safety, had a linebacker underneath him, and he was still making catches. So to me, it's a no-brainer. If I'm Todd Haley and Ben Roethlisberger, I'm going to try to put as many option routes in for Heath Miller as I can and try to get him the football.
Well, give it to us straight. Will they win their last two and make the playoffs?
It's going to be very difficult for them to win their last two football games against division foes. But for some reason, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers like to be backed into a corner. Yeah. They like to come out and play their best games when they have a bunch of adversity before them. I think they get it done.
Mike Logan says they'll be in. Maybe they'll host Indianapolis in a wild card game here. It's still possible if the Ravens keep losing the way they have been. For Mike Logan, I'm Ken Laird. Steelers 365, brought to you by Eastern H2O.